Leo, welcome to your November 2020 love reading for singles. It's Raina here, and I do these readings, now and then. I used to do them a lot more often, but I thought I would revisit it, and I created a slightly different spread than I normally use, but it's still basically the same. Okay, so we've got a couple of cups for the kind of outcome or, future cards. And although I try to make this more about messages that are, philosophical than, being a fortune teller or anything like that, because it can be just interesting to reflect upon how these cards relate to your love life. As a matter of fact, the first card is the state of your love life right now. The Ace of Swords is a card of mental clarity. That's probably why they have the rays of light shooting from her head. And, I'm still getting used to this deck, and I keep seeing reoccurring images. And that crow, if that's what that is, at the top, it seems like that is with the swords. But no, I got the Three of Swords and the crow isn't there. So, But in some of the cards, it might be for that negativity leaving your thoughts, or the deception, whatever the crow represents. Because the Ace of Swords is about seeing things as they really are. So to me, it's about letting go of some kind of a fantasy or misconception about something that has happened. And one thing that I was going to say before I began this reading is that even when you're single, many times there still are people in your life or a person who you're connected to romantically, energetically. So even if you consider yourself divorced, there might be somebody from your past, your high school or college sweetheart, that you have always wanted to be with, or somebody, maybe even that ex. And especially if they're narcissistic, where they come back into your life and they act really sweet, and you kind of soften, and then you go back to them. So with the Ace of Swords, if there is that kind of person, you're seeing them as they really are. And that means that you're not going to fall for the okie doke in the future. Regardless of what your history is with love, the Ace of Swords can still be the sense of you seeing your own patterns, perhaps, and being able to feel that you're really progressing instead of just kind of spinning your wheels and doing things, making the same mistakes over and over again. And perhaps you even tell yourself something like, I'm going to do things differently this time. So there can be a readiness for a new experience anytime we have an ace here. If there's a person who you're interested in romantically, but you're not really there yet, or maybe you're talking to this person, I don't know, casually dating them, but you're not actually in a committed relationship with them, they might be an air sign, and that could indicate the beginning of a relationship with that person. For your sign, Aquarius is the opposite sign of the air signs. And then there is also Libra and Gemini as air signs. And so that might just be indicating that this is somebody that you have feelings for, or you just are kind of communicating with. In the past, position that may have informed where you are right now. We have Page of Pentacles. And this can be like a new job or a new business that you've started, and perhaps that has some connection to how you meet this person. The other thing about the Page of Pentacles is that it's the card of the student, so that might be what has transpired. Both the Page and the Ace are similar in theme, where they're at the beginning stages. The Ace is more of the catalyst, and the Page is the early stage of something. So maybe that person is actually like an earth sign. And if the person is an earth sign, it is possible that your mental clarity is realizing that the relationship is not really love necessarily. So like, for instance, Taurus is one of the earth signs, and the other earth signs are Virgo and Capricorn, but Taurus is a fixed sign like you. And they say that when, so it forms a square, and they say that sometimes people can be physically attracted to people that they square off to. And because Leo is a very sensual sign, and so is Taurus, that might be an area, sensuality, that really draws the two of you together. And maybe the mental clarity is realizing that that's all that it is, that it is not love. And maybe this is a pattern with you in the past, where you have been getting involved in relationships and it's not what it seems, and it can feel very confusing or disappointing because you want it to be something else, and maybe you were in denial before and now that you're not. If you're totally single and not hung up on anybody, then the Ace of Swords can simply be that your head is free of all of the things that were getting to you in the past, and you're able to perceive things with a fresh set of eyes. The lesson you've had to learn recently as it relates to love is related to the Three of Swords, which is a card of rejection and heartbreak, heartache. This is a little bit intense. I like this deck, and it tends to be very cheery, but that's a little bit intense. And so some Leos have had to let go of a relationship, and it may have been very difficult. But even, it sounds to me like with the Three of Swords, it's more of you feeling like rejected by somebody else. So perhaps you were in a three-party situation, and the other person was the one who was choosing between you and somebody else. I don't know. But regardless of what transpired, the bottom line is that when you feel a sense of rejection, you have to make sure that it was something that was legitimate to begin with. If somebody rejects you and chooses somebody else when they've been cheating on you, or kind of like demeaning you, it's not really a loss. It's actually a blessing. And maybe that is the lesson that you had to learn, is that somebody choosing somebody else over you, or cheating on you, whatever, putting you in that situation of having to be in a three-party situation, doesn't reflect on you, but on them. And for Leo, it's funny because there is this part of you that is very confident, but it might be in one area that you feel very sure of yourself, and maybe when it comes to your private life, you're a little bit shaky. I was thinking about Lucille Ball. I don't know why that she popped in my head, who was a famous Leo. And her husband, Desi Arnaz, who was very, I think he was having a lot of affairs. And I don't know if she was the one that filed for divorce, but I'm sure that she, was just so hurt so many times that she finally had to leave. And I remember seeing an interview of her on YouTube, and she was like saying, saying these kind of negative things, but I could tell that she probably still loved him, even though she was saying these things, because Leos are very warm and they're very loyal, and, fixed signs in general, it's hard for them to just go to the next person. It's not like they're going to be that frivolous about who they give their heart to. So it doesn't really matter whether you left somebody or somebody left you, or even if you were single and there was somebody that you cared about and you found out that they were already involved and you felt a little bit, I don't know, rejected, or I don't know, some kind of negative emotion about it. It doesn't matter any of those scenarios. The bottom line is that when you have a strong relationship to yourself, you'll never be dependent on anybody to, kind of validate your worth. And maybe the Three of Swords is just that you had to learn how to cut something off very cleanly because you kept going back to it. That could be it as well. The Three of Swords can be heart surgery, and it means that clean break. And maybe with the Ace of Swords, it sounds like you had to really absorb the truth of a situation in order to fully end it. So that might be some kind of a heavy lesson. And what is coming in is the Eight of Cups, and this is another example of walking away from something that no longer serves you. Now, it's interesting in this deck that the woman is walking towards the sun. In the Rider-Waite deck and the other deck, Morgan Greer, that I use quite a bit, they show a moon. And it makes more sense because it was during the night. And yet this shows the sun. And I like this depiction, actually, because first of all, you are ruled by the sun, Leo. So that makes more sense for you to walk towards the sun. But the sun is our sense of self. And the moon is kind of the reflection of that. So when we are walking towards something, we're walking towards our own destiny, our own, what we came here to accomplish on our own. And sometimes we lose that when we're in relationships because we get caught up in what somebody else wants, or we just forget about what we came here for. So if somebody was keeping you from that, then this is you going towards your own, kind of reacquainting yourself with you. And the Ace of Swords may have kind of finally made you realize how you had lost yourself. So basically what I'm saying with the cards so far is that this may be a process. When I see that Three of Swords in that position, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are ready to accept love. The outcome is a card that is kind of similar to somebody who is making a commitment. And so I suppose if this is a situation where you are, if there has been somebody in your past, one of the things that I maybe didn't mention is at the beginning of the month, we still have the Mercury retrograde going on. Mercury goes direct on the 3rd, and the rest of the month will be a time of Mercury coming back up to speed and out of its shadow. So you can tack on probably a couple of weeks when it still is in that shadow period, even when it's direct. Now, this is a card of committing to somebody, but it can be a card of forgiveness. It can be a card of, reunion for sure. And also a card of committing to somebody. So um, if you had, if you have like separated from somebody that you were dating and maybe they were not finished dating somebody else and that really hurt you because you thought that you and that person were monogamous, maybe you had to go your own way, or you have to have that space before you can reconcile. And sometimes, I would never say to anybody who is dealing with infidelity in a relationship, and I'm speaking specifically of not so much a long-time married couple, but more of, you're dating somebody and you find out that they said that, maybe you assumed that they were only seeing you, and you find out that they're seeing somebody else. In those situations, it's easy to feel betrayed, but sometimes a person who has been involved with somebody else does kind of have that off again, on again situation as they break off with that person for good. So I never say never with any kind of situation. Sometimes people do have conflicting emotions and it's hard for them to commit, and perhaps you have to leave a certain relationship in order to find the person that you're meant to be with. And that could be something in the future, maybe a year from now, who knows, with the Two of Cups. But the other possibility is that if you are seeing a situation, maybe a situation of infidelity, very clearly, and you're not in denial over it, it's easier to walk away and it's easier to reconnect, and then it brings you into that place where you have the opportunity to either reunite with the person you're really caring for, or perhaps make space for somebody to come in who you can have a true commitment with. I think the bottom line is that unlike the Three of Swords, which can be feelings of rejection and or being in a lover's triangle, the Two of Cups is a card of commitment. It means somebody is getting involved with you and they want to be with you. They're not like going back and forth between you and somebody else. There's like this very clear feeling that they have that you're the only one for them. And that is such a good feeling, to know that somebody feels that way towards you, and that you don't have to worry about them cheating. You don't have to worry about them leaving. And of course, nobody should really worry about these things because we can't control what other people do anyway. And if you think that you're fabulous, chances are the other person will. The people that I think really mess it up for themselves are people who are insecure and they don't really believe that they're deserving of love, and they kind of try to control the other person, and in the process they push them away. So being too possessive and things like that. Now, it makes me think that perhaps you received a message from somebody from your past, maybe an earth sign from your past, and that has set you on the journey of clarity, where you can see how the person that you're currently with is not for you. And when I say that you're with this person, you may see yourself as single, but you're still dealing with somebody. I see the Three of Swords as perhaps a person who has hurt you time and time again. And being able to walk away from that forever and have a clean break, gives you that space for a commitment with somebody who really values you. So I hope that that made sense. I think in this particular reading, it took me a little while to come up with a narrative, but that's what I have for you, Leo. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.